The storm outside matched the chaos within. Rain lashed against the windows of the modest Texas home as lightning illuminated the horrific scene in strobing flashes. Deputy Marissa Cruz stood motionless, her service weapon still gripped in her trembling hand, its weight suddenly foreign. The polished oak floor, once the pride of their renovated ranch house, now bore a dark, expanding stain. In the center of that crimson pool lay Carlton Rivera, her husband of 7 years. His eyes, those same eyes that had once looked at her with such tenderness, now stared vacantly at the ceiling. The secret he had kept buried, a secret spanning generations, had finally erupted into violence that shattered their world in mere seconds. What would you do if the person you trusted most was hiding a deadly secret? How would you react when the foundation of your marriage, of your entire life, turned out to be built on deception? Have you ever discovered something about someone you love that changed everything? That moment when truth crashes through the carefully constructed facade of normality, leaving you questioning every memory, every shared moment, every promise ever made. For Deputy Marissa Cruz, uncovering her husband's family secret cost her everything. The badge she wore with such pride could not protect her from the consequences of digging too deep. Her training prepared her for danger from strangers, but nothing could have prepared her for the danger lurking within her own home. But what was this secret worth killing for? What darkness from the past held such power that blood would be spilled to keep it hidden? In the quiet town of San Lorenzo, where neighbors greeted each other by name and community barbecues marked the changing seasons, how could such violence take root? The answers lie in a decades-old conspiracy, a family legacy drenched in deceit, and the brave woman who refused to look away when truth demanded to be seen. Before we explore the shocking events that led to this fatal night in West Texas, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Village. Your support helps us bring these crucial stories to light. Stories that could one day save your life. Because as Deputy Cruz learned in the most devastating way possible, sometimes the most dangerous threats are hiding in plain sight, right beside you at the dinner table. San Lorenzo, Texas existed as a dot on the map, 120 miles west of San Antonio. Population 8,543. According to the faded welcome sign at the town limits, for most residents it was simply home, a collection of weathered buildings, wide streets, and endless sky. For Deputy Marissa Cruz it was her domain, a territory she patrolled with unflinching dedication. Each morning began the same way, alarm at 5 o'clock. Coffee brewed strong enough to stand a spoon in. Uniform pressed to military precision. By 5:45, her department-issued SUV would roll out from the modest driveway of her ranch-style home. The dashboard clock typically read 6:15 when she arrived at the sheriff's station, always 45 minutes before her shift officially began. "Cruz gets here before the sun does," her colleagues would joke. Yet beneath their teasing lay genuine admiration. In the 8 years since joining the department, Marissa had earned their respect through actions rather than words. She was always the first to volunteer for difficult assignments, the last to leave after shifts ended, and consistently thorough in her case documentation. The challenges she faced were not always visible to others. As one of only 3 female deputies in the department of 22 officers, Marissa navigated an unspoken obstacle course daily. Civilians who requested to speak with a real officer when she responded to calls. The subtle double standards, where her mistakes were remembered longer than her male counterparts. The constant pressure to prove herself worthy of the badge she wore. "You have to be twice as good to get half the credit," her academy instructor had warned. Marissa had taken those words to heart, transforming them from a discouragement into fuel for her determination. Her patrol route encompassed dusty back roads, where cacti stood sentinel, and main streets where locals waved as she passed. She knew every business owner by name. could recite which elderly residents needed welfare checks during heat waves, and recognize the teenagers who might need guidance rather than handcuffs when caught with minor infractions. During her shifts, Marissa maintained a composed exterior that rarely betrayed emotion. Her posture remained straight, her voice steady, even in crisis. This professional demeanor became both shield and barrier, protecting her from criticism while simultaneously keeping others at a distance. Few witnessed the toll this constant vigilance extracted. After 12-hour shifts dealing with domestic disputes, drug-related crimes, and the occasional violent outburst, Marissa often sat alone in her patrol vehicle, allowing herself 5 minutes of solitude before driving home. These quiet moments revealed what her colleagues rarely saw: the exhaustion etched around her eyes, the weight of responsibility bowing her shoulders. At community gatherings, citizens approached with gratitude and problems alike. She attended neighborhood meetings, spoke at schools, and participated in town events, always in uniform, always representing the department. Yet, despite this integration, a subtle isolation followed her. The nature of her job created an invisible boundary between herself and civilians that even her marriage to Carlton could not fully bridge. Marissa Cruz met Carlton Rivera during a charity fundraiser for the local fire department. She stood by the refreshment table, uniform crisp despite the summer heat, when he approached with 2 glasses of lemonade. "Thought you might need this," he said, his smile revealing a dimple in his right cheek. That small gesture, thoughtful and unexpected, captured her attention immediately. Carlton worked as a regional manager for a logistics company, overseeing operations across 3 counties. His education at Texas State University and steady career progression impressed Marissa, who valued stability and ambition. Their courtship progressed with deliberate care: dinner dates at family-owned restaurants, weekend drives through hill country, long conversations on her front porch as cicadas provided background chorus. To those watching from the outside, the Rivera marriage embodied relationship goals. They purchased their ranch home 2 years after their wedding, renovating it themselves on weekends. Their photographs appeared regularly in the local newspaper, Carlton presenting scholarships to high school seniors, Marissa in her uniform at community safety events, both of them volunteering at holiday food drives. "You two make marriage look easy," friends often commented, never seeing how Carlton sometimes checked his phone with unusual urgency when certain numbers appeared. They missed how conversations occasionally halted when Marissa entered a room, or how Carlton maintained separate banking accounts despite their joint household expenses. Carlton won people over effortlessly. His natural charisma filled rooms. He remembered birthdays, asked meaningful questions about others' lives, and offered help before being asked. Business owners sought his advice on logistics issues. Church committees requested his participation. School boards welcomed his input. His smooth, measured speech and thoughtful pauses gave weight to his opinions. Carlton Rivera could charm a rattlesnake into giving up its venom, one town council member remarked, after Carlton negotiated funding for a community center renovation. Yet within the privacy of their home, moments existed that contradicted the public narrative. Carlton disappeared for hours without explanation. His family rarely visited, a father mentioned but never seen, cousins referenced but never introduced. When pressed about his childhood, Carlton offered polished stories that somehow lacked personal details, as though reciting events that happened to someone else. Some nights, Marissa woke to find him sitting in their backyard at 3 in the morning, smoking cigarettes he claimed he never bought, staring into darkness as though waiting for something to emerge. When questioned, his explanations came too quickly, too smoothly rehearsed. Phone calls arrived at odd hours, leading Carlton to step outside regardless of weather or time. Unmarked packages occasionally appeared on their porch, quickly whisked away before Marissa could inquire about their contents. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect marriage lay questions Marissa had learned to swallow. The professional investigator who could track criminal patterns across counties somehow failed to connect the inconsistencies accumulating in her own home, or perhaps chose not to see them, preserving the life she believed they were building together. The manila folder landed on Marissa's desk with a dull thud. "Sheriff wants you on this," Lieutenant Mendoza said, tapping the case label. "Your analytical skills might spot something we missed." Inside lay crime scene photos, witness statements, and forensic reports from 7 unsolved murders spanning from 1981 to 1986. The victims, 4 men and 3 women, appeared unconnected at first glance. Different ages, occupations, and social circles, yet each body had been discovered in remote locations within a 50-mile radius of San Lorenzo. "Why reopen these now?" Marissa asked during the task force's first meeting. Sheriff Davidson gestured toward a young forensic technician. "DNA technology has evolved. Garrett here has managed to extract viable samples from evidence that was previously untestable. We have potential matches to run." The assignment brought mixed feelings for Marissa. Professional pride at being selected balanced against the added hours away from home. Already, Carlton had expressed disappointment about her irregular schedule. "Just when we were planning that trip to Austin," he had said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. 3 weeks into the investigation, Marissa developed a timeline wall in the department's conference room. Photographs connected by colored strings visualized potential links between victims, locations, and known criminal activity from that era. A pattern began to emerge, not in how the murders occurred, but in what happened afterward. Local businesses changing ownership, property sales, sudden relocations of peripheral witnesses. "Follow the money," Marissa murmured to herself, requesting financial records from that period. The name Rivera first appeared innocuously, a signature on a property transfer document dated July 12, 1983, 2 weeks after the 4th victim was found. Victor Rivera, purchasing land previously owned by a witness who had suddenly recanted their testimony. Marissa paused, pen hovering over her notepad. Rivera was a common Hispanic surname in Texas. Coincidences happened. Still, she photographed the document with her phone before continuing. More connections surfaced. A newspaper article mentioned Victor Rivera as a business associate of Manuel Diaz, a man questioned but never charged in relation to the 5th murder. A grainy photograph showed both men at a political fundraiser, standing near Carlton's father, Eduardo Rivera. The final piece clicked into place at 2:13 in the morning, as Marissa reviewed court transcripts in her home office. A witness testimony described seeing 2 Rivera brothers near the site where evidence was later recovered. The date aligned with Eduardo's known residence in San Lorenzo. Her heart raced as she pulled Carlton's family photos from their bedroom closet. The formal portrait taken at his cousin's wedding included an older man who matched the newspaper image of Victor Rivera, the uncle Carlton claimed he had never met. Hands trembling, Marissa spread the evidence across her desk. Property records, court documents, newspaper clippings, and photographs. The connections formed an undeniable chain linking the Rivera family directly to at least 3 of the cold case murders. In that moment, standing alone in the pale glow of her desk lamp, Deputy Marissa Cruz faced the most challenging investigation of her career, one that led directly to her husband's family. Have you ever had to choose between loyalty and truth, between protecting someone you love and fulfilling your duty? Comment below about a time when your personal and professional worlds collided and what you chose to do. Your experience might help someone facing a similar impossible choice. Marissa maintained 2 investigations now, the official cold cases at the department and her unauthorized probe into the Rivera family. Each night after Carlton fell asleep, she slipped into her home office, building a separate case file that would never appear in official records. She requested vacation days to visit county archives 3 hours away, where she discovered Victor Rivera's history of arrests throughout the 1970s, charges including assault, extortion, and weapons violations, most mysteriously dismissed before trial. His name appeared in footnotes of a state police report about organized crime syndicates operating along the Texas-Mexico border. Eduardo Rivera, Carlton's father, maintained a cleaner public record, but showed suspicious financial patterns: property purchases with cash transactions, business partnerships that dissolved shortly after major crimes, tax records showing income inconsistent with his stated occupation as a regional distributor. Marissa cross-referenced dates of significant Rivera family events against her cold case timeline. Eduardo's sudden relocation to Houston coincided with the final murder investigation. Victor's acquisition of multiple properties aligned with periods when key witnesses changed testimonies or disappeared entirely. The evidence pointed toward a devastating conclusion: the Rivera brothers had operated as enforcers for a drug trafficking organization. Their activities protected distribution networks through intimidation, bribery, and, when necessary, elimination of threats. Each discovery drove a deeper wedge between Marissa's personal and professional identities. Her stomach churned when Carlton kissed her goodbye each morning, his hands possibly carrying the same genetic code as killers, gentle against her cheek. Nights brought fitful sleep interrupted by nightmares where Carlton stood over bodies, his familiar smile now menacing. "You okay, babe? You seem distant," Carlton asked one evening, reaching for her hand across their dinner table. Marissa withdrew her fingers. "Just tired. Work stuff." Her training taught her to gather comprehensive evidence before confrontation, but the weight of secrets crushed her spirit daily. Colleagues noticed her distraction. Cases suffered. Her reflection in the mirror showed haunted eyes and tightened lips. The decision crystallized after discovering a photograph tucked in courthouse archives. Victor and Eduardo Rivera, with the lead detective who had inexplicably closed 3 of the cold case investigations. Their posture suggested familiarity beyond professional interaction. The timestamp 2 days before crucial evidence disappeared from police storage. "We need to talk." Marissa placed her folder on the coffee table as Carlton entered their living room one Thursday evening. Outside, thunder rumbled across distant hills. His smile faltered as he noticed the documents. "Your family." Marissa laid out photographs, court records, and property documents. "Your uncle Victor, your father, their connections to these murders." Carlton's expression shifted through confusion, shock, and something darker: resignation. "You researched my family." Not a question. His voice had changed, acquired an edge she had never heard before. "Tell me you knew nothing about this." Carlton sat heavily, hands clasped between his knees. "What exactly do you think you found?" "Evidence connecting your father and uncle to at least 5 murders, their involvement with organized crime. The fact you lied about never meeting Victor when there are photographs of you together." Lightning flashed, momentarily illuminating the room in harsh white light. "Marissa, listen. Did you know?" Her voice cracked. "All these years, did you know what they did?" Carlton's silence answered more clearly than words. "I knew pieces," he finally admitted. "Stories, whispers, nothing concrete." "And you never thought to tell me? Your wife? A law enforcement officer?" "They were my family." His jaw tightened. "You cannot choose your blood, but you chose to hide it from me. To protect you, to protect us." Was. Carlton reached for her hand. What happened back then? It was another life. Another generation. Murder does not expire, Carlton. What do you want me to say? That my father was involved with terrible people, that Victor was dangerous. Yes, probably true. But that has nothing to do with me, with us. Marissa stared at her husband, searching for the man she thought she knew. How can I trust anything about our life together? Because I have spent every day trying to be different from them. His eyes glistened. Ask me anything. I will tell you what I know. But as Carlton began his halting explanation, Marissa recognized skilled omissions and careful phrasing, the hallmarks of a partial truth, designed to satisfy while concealing deeper secrets. The days following the confrontation brought a heavy silence to the Rivera household. Carlton slept in the guest room. Conversations became functional exchanges, brief, hollow words devoid of their previous warmth. Marissa continued her official cold case work at the department while watching her husband with new, suspicious eyes. 3 days after their confrontation, the first warning appeared. Marissa returned from her shift to find their mailbox flag raised. Inside lay a single bullet. No note, no explanation needed. When shown the bullet, Carlton paled, but insisted it must be a prank from neighborhood teenagers. This is not a prank, Marissa countered, bagging the bullet as evidence. Someone knows what I found. The next morning, Marissa discovered her police cruiser with all 4 tires slashed. 2 days later, a black sedan with tinted windows parked across from their house for 6 hours before driving away when approached. Anonymous calls began reaching their home phone. Silence on the line followed by a distinctive click. "We need to talk to my supervisor," Marissa insisted. "Get protection." "No police," Carlton responded, his voice sharp with fear. "That would only escalate things. I can handle this." "Handle what exactly?" "Who are these people, Carlton?" His only answer: "Old connections never truly fade." 1 week after their confrontation, dark clouds gathered over San Lorenzo, bringing driving rain and violent winds. Power lines swayed dangerously. Tree branches scratched against windows like skeletal fingers seeking entry. The Rivera's home stood illuminated only by scattered candles after electricity failed throughout their neighborhood at 10:27 that evening. Marissa sat cleaning her service weapon in the living room as Carlton paced nervously near the kitchen. The storm masked the sound of approaching vehicles until headlights swept across their front windows. "Stay here," Marissa commanded, moving toward the window with practiced caution. 3 men emerged from a mud-splattered SUV. Their methodical movements triggered Marissa's tactical awareness. "Carlton, get down. Call 911. Before he could respond, the front door crashed inward, wood splintering around the lock. Marissa raised her weapon as 2 figures entered, faceless shapes in the candle-fluttered darkness. "Police officer, drop your weapons," she shouted, backing toward Carlton. The response came in the form of gunfire. 2 shots exploded through the dimness. Marissa returned fire, hitting one intruder who crumpled against their entryway wall. A scream behind her turned her blood cold. Carlton clutched his chest, crimson blooming across his white shirt. She fired twice more toward the door before rushing to her husband. "Officer down! Officer down!" she yelled into her radio, applying pressure to his wound with desperate hands. "Stay with me, Carlton. Stay with me." Blood pulsed between her fingers, despite her efforts. Carlton's eyes found hers, filled with a terrible clarity. "They came because of what you found," he whispered. "The old guard, protecting their secrets." "Ambulance is coming," she promised, hearing sirens in the distance. "Just hold on." "Too late," he coughed, blood staining his lips. "Should have told you everything. Thought I escaped it all." His final words tore through Marissa with devastating force. Some family legacies cannot be outrun. As Carlton's eyes fixed and his body stilled beneath her bloodied hands, the horrific understanding crystallized in Marissa's mind. Her investigation, her pursuit of justice, had triggered this violence. The very badge she wore, the oath she had sworn to protect and serve, had instead brought death into her home. The crime scene at the Rivera home became a maze of yellow tape and evidence markers. Fellow deputies, men and women who had worked alongside Marissa for years, now processed her living room as a homicide scene. The dead intruder was identified as Miguel Escobar, a former enforcer with connections to organized crime along the border. His criminal record spanned 3 decades. Sheriff Davidson assigned the department's most experienced investigator to lead the case. "We take care of our own," he told Marissa, who sat hollow-eyed in the station's break room, her uniform replaced by borrowed clothes, still stained with Carlton's blood. Within 72 hours, the investigation revealed disturbing connections. The surviving attackers were identified through fingerprints and DNA as members of the Alegría cartel, a drug trafficking organization believed dormant since the early 2000s. Their re-emergence coincided precisely with Marissa's inquiries into the cold cases. "They were protecting old secrets," the lead investigator explained during a briefing. "Your cold case work threatened to expose protection networks established decades ago." The Rivera name appears repeatedly in their hierarchy. The San Lorenzo community processed the tragedy with morbid fascination. Neighbors who once brought casseroles now watched from behind curtains as Marissa returned home. Conversations halted when she entered the grocery store. Parents pulled children closer when she passed on sidewalks. "They blame me," Marissa told her department psychologist during a mandatory session. "Sometimes I blame myself too." Her isolation grew as whispers spread. Was she truly innocent? Or had she known about Carlton's family all along? How could a trained deputy miss such connections in her own home? The questions lingered, unspoken but ever present in sideways glances and awkward silences. Grief twisted with betrayal inside Marissa. Each memory of Carlton now carried a shadow. Was that moment genuine or part of his carefully constructed facade? She removed their wedding photos from walls, but could not bring herself to discard them, instead placing them in boxes in the garage, alongside his clothes and personal effects. At night, alone in their bed, anger competed with mourning. "How could you hide this from me?" she whispered to the empty pillow beside her. "How could you bring this danger into our lives?" The department offered her extended leave, which she refused. Work provided structure when everything else crumbled. Her colleagues maintained professional courtesy but kept emotional distance, uncertain how to navigate her complicated tragedy. But the most devastating discovery was yet to come. During the 3rd week of investigation, as forensic accountants traced financial connections between the Rivera family and the Alegría cartel, they uncovered a safety deposit box registered jointly to Carlton and his father. Its contents would shatter what remained of Marissa's understanding of her marriage. If someone close to you has secrets that seem harmless now, remember Deputy Cruz's story. Share this video to warn friends and family about the dangers of hidden family histories, because sometimes the past does not stay buried, and when it resurfaces, it can destroy everything you hold dear. The safety deposit box contained documents spanning 4 decades, financial ledgers, property deeds, and photographs revealing the full extent of the Rivera family criminal enterprise. Eduardo and Victor Rivera had not merely been associates of the Alegría cartel, they had managed its financial operations throughout the 1980s and 90s. Their seemingly legitimate businesses, including the logistics company Carlton eventually joined, had served as fronts for money laundering operations processing millions of dollars. Most shocking were journals written in Eduardo's careful hand, documenting meetings, transactions, and problems resolved. Coded references to the cold case murders Marissa had been investigating. The entries mentioned a succession plan involving Cullen, grooming him to eventually take over the legitimate side of operations while maintaining connections to cartel leadership. Carlton Rivera rejected direct involvement in illegal activities. The FBI analyst explained as evidence was catalogued. Records indicate he repeatedly attempted to distance himself from family operations. He moved away for college, changed career paths twice, even briefly changed his name. Yet, despite these efforts, Carlton had never fully escaped. His signature appeared on multiple documents, transferring properties acquired through criminal proceedings. His name was listed as beneficiary on accounts funded with drug money. While he had refused direct participation in violence, he had benefited from and facilitated the financial infrastructure supporting it. He existed in a gray area, the prosecutor told Marissa during a private briefing. Not clean enough to be innocent, not involved enough to be prosecuted under normal circumstances. The syndicate's renewed interest had been triggered by Marissa's investigation connecting modern financial transactions to historical crimes. Her methodical evidence gathering threatened to expose not only past murders but current operations, still utilizing networks and properties established decades earlier. They were afraid you would find the connection between the cold cases and active money laundering operations, Sheriff Davidson explained. Your department access, combined with your proximity to Carlton, created the perfect storm. Carlton's final text messages, recovered from his phone, revealed his desperate attempts to protect Marissa. He had reached out to former family contacts, claiming he would handle the situation and ensure her investigation focused elsewhere. His final message, sent hours before the attack. She knows nothing about current operations. This can be contained without violence. The tragic irony crushed what remained of Marissa's heart. Carlton had died because he tried to protect her while still protecting family secrets. His half measures, not fully confessing, not completely cutting ties with his past, had created the very vulnerability that led to his murder. His attempt to inhabit two worlds, one with Marissa built on love and legitimate work, another shadowed by family loyalty and criminal connections, had ultimately made both worlds collapse around him. 6 months after Carlton's murder, Deputy Marissa Cruz returned to full duty with the San Lorenzo Sheriff's Department. Her colleagues noticed subtle changes, a hardened resolve in her eyes, a new thoroughness in her investigations that bordered on obsession. She requested assignment to financial crimes, applying lessons learned from the Rivera case to track money trails across jurisdictions. The past cannot be changed, but patterns can be broken, Marissa explained during a training session she developed for fellow officers. Look beyond the obvious crime to find the network supporting it. Her personal tragedy transformed into professional purpose. The case files from Carlton's murder never returned to evidence storage. They remained in her home office, alongside photographs of the husband she had both loved and never truly known. Each discovery about other criminal networks brought a measure of justice, not just for nameless victims, but for her own shattered life. When asked how she continued forward, Marissa offered a simple truth: hiding from reality never protects you. It only leaves you vulnerable. This case offers crucial lessons for all of us. First, transparency forms the foundation of genuine trust. Relationships built on partial truths eventually collapse under their own weight. Second, our connections, family, romantic, professional, require ongoing vigilance. Love must never blind us to warning signs. Third, the past rarely stays buried. Secrets demand enormous energy to maintain and eventually surface with devastating consequences. Most importantly, this case demonstrates how isolation enables deception. Carlton hid his family history because he believed Marissa would reject him entirely. That fear of judgment created the very circumstances that led to tragedy. Consider your own relationships. Are there conversations you avoid? Topics that remain off-limits? Histories deliberately left unexamined? The courage to address these gaps might be uncomfortable now, but could prevent devastation later. Subscribe to True Crime Village for more stories containing lessons that could save your life. Our episodes explore the human factors behind criminal cases and provide practical wisdom for protecting yourself and those you love. Remember Deputy Marissa Cruz, who discovered too late that the person sleeping beside her harbored deadly secrets. Sometimes the most dangerous truths are those closest to home, hidden behind the eyes of someone who claims to love you.